Hello nerds, another week in Nerdom coming at you. Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is the week in Nerdom, as previously stated, and it is your twice weekly source for all of the nerd news headlines, all of the TV and the gaming and the comics and the music and all of this stuff. And let's hit the intro so we can jump into all of the things. So first thing, I want to apologize. I'm trying a new schedule, or a new posting procedure rather, so I skipped making last episode live when it should have gone live, and I'm sorry because it was up a day in advance so that I can be more on top of the Patreon side of things. Again, patreon.com/generallynerdy, you can go check it out. So I put it up early so that the guys who are on the Patreon can see it like they're supposed to a day early, and then I forgot to make it live for everybody else. So my apologies, but things happen and we move on, and now let's jump into the music news. So in music, we first have another new song from, and video from Slipknot, just came out yesterday. It was The Birth of the Cruel. You can find a link in the description to go watch the video. The video seems that it was done for Instagram, for potentially IGTV, since it's like 6 minutes long, and you can't post more than a minute on regular Instagram. But the video's kind of whatever. It's just pictures of them being distorted in different ways and moving and so on and so forth. So it's not really anything spectacular, but the song, again, really has me excited for this new record. Really heavy, not super fast, got a real slow kind of driving feel to it, and definitely, again, probably not quite as good as Iowa, but I have yet to listen to the whole record. We still have a few days before that officially comes out, so we will just have to wait and see. But next, and this is kind of a follow-up, and it's more, I want to direct you over to Adam Neely's channel. Adam Neely is a music YouTuber who does very, very, very well-educated and very super eloquent video essays on music topics. Usually has something to do with jazz, but he talked about the decision in the Katy Perry trial, so you can check the link in the description. It'll take you directly to that video. Awesome channel, watch all of his stuff, but specifically the Katy Perry video, because he kind of crystallizes all of the thoughts I was trying to get through, and so many more. So definitely go check that out, because that is the definitive what the hell happened video when it comes to the Katy Perry decision. Because if you don't know, because we didn't talk about it when it actually happened, but I did find this video, so it kind of brought it back up. Katy Perry lost the decision against her from the Christian rap artist Flame. Just go watch the video. But next, and the final piece in music section for this episode, has to do with Times of Grace. No, not the Neurosis song, though I'm sure very few of you actually caught the Neurosis reference, but the Killswitch Engage side project. That actually didn't really start as a Killswitch Engage side project, because Jesse was not the vocalist for KSE at the time, though he was the ex-vocalist, and Adam is also the guitar player, producer, and often drummer for the Times of Grace side project. And I believe Adam plays the bass on the record as well, so it's basically Jesse and Adam. They did officially hire on their touring drummer as a part of the band, but again, I don't know how much a part of the band he is. But anyway, they have been working on a new record, the follow-up to 2011's Hymns of a Broken Man. They have been working on that since 2017, because obviously Killswitch Engage takes priority in both of their lives now. They haven't really been pushing very hard for it. Well, they are both very actively working on it at this point, on the road perhaps, because that was not made 100% clear in the sources that I've read, but they are trying to get it out by the end of this year. So it's an interesting it's an interesting variation on what you get from Killswitch. The Hymns of a Broken Man is less overt, or less covert rather, about the Christian underpinnings of the lyrics, and more overt, a bit more obvious, but still definitely has that element to it. But you check it out. Getting ready for the new record. Soon, hopefully soon, though probably we'll see it around about November would be my guess, because they're not really going to go on tour for this, so it doesn't really matter if they release it by the end of the year, or at the end of the year rather, because like we've talked before, they release a record before or at the end of the year, then people won't book them for tours because they had a record last year and not this year, and it's stupid, even if it's a week old, whatever. Rambling, we're moving on to the next section. TV news, guys. First thing in TV news is it's just a little bit of a forewarning. There is a lot of TV news for this episode, so bear with me. We will work our way through it. I promise. But the first thing we're talking about is a little bit of a follow-up to the Crisis on Infinite Earths 5-hour epic event on the CW that is happening this December. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So first, we got the announcement that Kevin Conroy is going to be playing an older version of Batman, Bruce Wayne, in the 5-hour series, I guess you could call it. And then shortly thereafter, we have rumors that started up, but there's so many of them at this point that it makes me think that it might actually be in the works for Mark Hamill to be playing a version of the Joker in this 5-hour epic event, which kind of says to me that they're allowing a little bit more leeway with the whole Batman embargo on the CW, at least just for these 5 hours, but still, that's kind of epic, that's kind of huge. And we also got an announcement for behind the scenes. Apparently Marv Wolfman, who is the author who wrote the Crisis on Infinite Earths in the comic books, he is going to be joining the writer's room for all 5 episodes as well. So this just keeps growing in scope and size, and it's just gonna be huge, and we're moving on to the next thing. Real short update on the Loki series for Disney+. Tom Hiddleson was talking to Entertainment Weekly, and he said that the plan is that they are going to be in active production at the, quote, top of the year, unquote. Exactly what the top of the year means, probably January, though he could mean December. Theoretically, if you're climbing up throughout the course of the year, then December would be the peak, right? So, December or January, likely when they will begin production on the Loki miniseries for Disney+. Next is another Nickelodeon update. As we've talked about before, they just got some new producers, some new upper-ups, the higher highs, the guys on charge, the powers that be, if you will, and so they've been on this new programming kick, and Viacom has kind of been feeding into it. And so if you don't know, Viacom is the parent company of Nickelodeon. They own a bunch of television stuff. They own MTV, they own VH1, they own all kinds of TV things, TV properties. So they just bought Paws Incorporated, which is the company that owns the IP rights to Garfield. So Nickelodeon now is working on a new Garfield cartoon. Exactly who's going to be involved and all of that still has yet to be worked out, but they did just announce it, so that's pretty exciting and kind of a blast from the past for a lot of people, because Garfield has been in 2 different animated series and 2 movies throughout the last 5 decades. So it's, pretty intense and awesome, and we're moving on. Speaking of brand new programming pushes, we're talking about Amazon Prime now, and they just made it known that they're working on an Event Horizon series for the Amazon Prime video streaming app. It is still early in the adaptation, so again, we don't have any of the production staff, we don't have any casting announcements, we don't even have writing staff at the moment, but they do own the rights to this property through some crazy dealings with Paramount, and so we're going to be seeing a sci-fi horror series based on the 1997 movie Event Horizon, and that's one of my favorite horror movies ever, so definitely excited about that. So remember when they announced the casting of the live-action Disney movie for The Little Mermaid. They announced the casting of Ariel, and the internet broke and lost its collective mind. Well, they kind of just did that again, and nobody seemed to notice. It seems that ABC, the broadcast television, the regular broadcast television channel, is going to be doing a live play version of The Little Mermaid. So it's kind of like what they did with Rent and Hairspray, and they've done a number of these throughout the years. But now they're doing it with a Disney princess movie. Granted, there are some songs in that, but it doesn't feel like the same thing. Anyway, the girl who did the voice, I believe, of Moana, it has been cast as Ariel. Her name, I apologize, I need to read this because it's not in my native tongue. So again, I apologize for butchering the name. Auli'i Cravalho. Sorry again for the mispronunciation, but she has been cast to play Ariel. Shaggy has been cast to play the crab Sebastian, which is actually kind of a great casting choice, I feel like, assuming Shaggy has some sort of acting chops. And possibly the biggest announcement here is Queen Latifah is going to be playing Ursula. I don't know if this is a thing that we need. Hopefully they can pull it off well, and hopefully it's entertaining, and hopefully it doesn't turn into whatever that was that they tried to do with Rent. But my hopes are not set super high. And moving on, back into the land of Amazon, we're talking now about The Lord of the Rings. And this one isn't really casting or writing or anything like that. So one of the creative consultants that they brought in for the show is a retired teacher and is a Tolkien scholar. So that's pretty interesting. He's been doing interviews recently, and he recently did a German language interview that said that the plan for Lord of the Rings on Amazon is not only are we absolutely going to be in the Second Age, that's been confirmed, but this is like double confirmation. Yes, we are going to be in the Second Age, but also they're going to be shooting for approximately 20 episodes for season 1. 20. So 20 hours of storytelling in the land of the Lord of the Rings. That's going to be very interesting. Now, I know back in the day, like we've talked about before, back when sitcoms were new, most TV programming was relatively new still. Back in the 60s and 70s and such, you got 25 approximately episodes every season, but that's because it was on every week, or some of them even more because they were on every day. So you had a new episode every day. But also because they didn't have a whole lot of other stuff to fill the time with, and they weren't hour-long episodes, they were all half-hour-long episodes. So really, if you're going half hour to an hour, you drop instantly to about 12 to 13 episodes, depending on how you want to divide that up. So that's kind of in line with what we're getting now anyway, unless differences, but still just really super interesting. 20 episodes? How are we going to fill 20 hours of programming? It's going to be quite the undertaking, and with $1 billion invested in this project, hopefully they can follow through with that large goal. And that brings us into movie news, and movie news is going to be relatively quick by comparison. First off, we're talking Venom 2. Andy Serkis has been officially locked in as the director. The only other thing I know of that he's directed was the Mowgli movie. So it'll be interesting to see how he does with this huge property, because they're both been established properties. I mean, you can't say this is his first established IP, but this is his largest for sure that he's undertaken as director, and his unique set of abilities should pay off in the next movie. Details exactly about what the plot is going to be are still kind of scarce, though he did post a selfie of himself, obviously. He did post a selfie up on his Twitter, I believe it was, where he is holding an issue of the Lethal Protector book, the Venom book rather, Lethal Protector, which is very much where we got the first movie from. So it'll be interesting to see what he takes from that and what other books he borrows from. Probably Maximum Carnage, maybe Absolute Carnage, which is just about to launch in comic books next week, I believe. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's when issue number 1's supposed to be dropping. Yeah. Excited because Serkis and his whole experience with CGI and acting should make this a much more rich and more believable character in Venom and vicariously in Carnage. Then we're going to talk real quick about the new Iron Man. Well, not necessarily. So, Dominic Cooper was talking with comicbook.com, and they asked if he would be willing to play Iron Man going forward once we get to the recast. And he did, from the sounds of the interview, about pooped his pants and jumped out of his skin saying yes. So if he has been a Stark in the past. He was Howard Stark back when we first saw young Howard Stark in Iron Man 2, I believe, and then again in Agent Carter he reprised the role as Howard Stark, though we all know him a little bit better as Jesse Custer over on the Preacher program on the AMCs. So he's not unfamiliar, A, with being a Stark, or B, with comic book characters in general, but wouldn't be a horrible casting idea to put him in as the new Tony once we get to that point in the MCU where we are recasting the roles for those who have left the fold. But with the thousands and thousands of characters that Feige referenced when we talked about that kind of stuff a couple episodes back, a couple months back at this point, I believe, I honestly at this point would be surprised if they brought back in an Iron Man or a Captain America that wasn't Falcon before he was Cap. So I don't know at this point if we are going to be recasting those roles, but it's interesting to think about, and I'm passing it off to you. What do you think about that? Next, we're talking Shazam 2, and this one was more of a thought experiment than anything, because in a recent interview, he said that Mr. Mind, as the next villain for Shazam, was not necessarily a foregone conclusion, though it did seem that that is what was set up with the end credits scene. So where could they possibly go that they've set up? Like, what do you guys think would make sense if they're not going to do Mr. Mind, and we are still waiting for a third Shazam movie before we see Black Adam? Where else can they go that would logically lead us down that path into Black Adam? I don't know the character well enough to make that call, so I'm passing that one off to you guys. What do you think they might go if they don't go with Mr. Mind? And then our last piece isn't necessarily news, unless you didn't know that Batman Hush, the animated movie, launched today as I'm recording this, and I watched it, and they changed the ending. And I don't know how I feel. No, I do know how I feel about it. It's kind of garbage. So what do you guys think? Because you have to watch this, because, I mean, the animated movies is what's keeping the DCEU floating effectively, aside from, I mean, obviously Shazam and Aquaman and Wonder Woman, but by and large, the most success that Warner Brothers has had with DC properties in movie form has been the animated movies. And I feel like this is their second really big misstep. The first obviously being Killing Joke, and now this is almost as big of a misstep. I'm not even gonna lie. So, without spoiling anything, let's talk about that down in the comments. Now let's jump into gaming news, guys, and the first thing we want to do for gaming news is a big shout out, actually, to Sonic Fox for winning the Mortal Kombat 11 EVO Championship. Wow, that was quite the competition this year, and I learned a lot. Let's just say that. I learned a lot about top tier and who is actually in the top tier and who is actually broken. Wow, some of the Gearus stuff that was happening in the top 8 was a little ridiculous. Deoxys, I'm looking at you, boss. So yeah, shout out, congratulations, awesome job to Sonic Fox, and we're moving on. Next is a follow-up to a piece that I'm pretty sure I posted on the Facebook, we didn't actually talk about in the last episode, is Apex Legends. They've been talking about how they're going to be releasing a thing that the fans have been asking about since day one, and then not saying what that thing is necessarily. So we've all been, well, there's been a number of things that the fans have been asking for since day one, and what is it that you're releasing? Well, they finally announced it. It is solo mode. This is a mode that it basically turns the game into Fortnite. Only you're not building things, you're still running around the same arena, just without the teams, so you'll have a single winner instead of a team of winners, which I don't know how much is going to change the dynamic of the game. It will be interesting to see, and we will definitely, probably, I'm trying to get back onto the Apex streaming, guys, but Mortal Kombat's really just consuming my life. So once this launches, I will try. I mean, I've played some Apex recently. I played a couple of matches after Season 2 started, but that's a very literal couple of matches because, again, Mortal Kombat has just been devouring my time as far as the streams go. But I am nearing the end of the sequence of streams right now that has to do with the story mode in Mortal Kombat, so that should ideally free up some time to do some Apex, and we'll see how that goes. And we're moving on. Next in gaming, we are talking about Bully 2 rumors. Bully 2 is apparently going to be the next big Rockstar release. It has not officially been confirmed through Rockstar, but there are plenty of places to find this rumor. Bully 2 is apparently going to be releasing in 2020 in the late fall window, so approximately October, November area, very likely more close to November because a number of things are happening around about November of 2020. First of which, obviously, is we're getting close to Christmas season, and that's when a lot of big projects drop. That's when Red Dead Redemption 2 dropped. That's when the next system cycle is also reported to be beginning. And the rumors are all saying that Bully 2 is going to simultaneously release on the next generation of systems, so PS5 and Xbox Scarlet, as well as current generation systems, so PS4 and Xbox One. There is no reason at this point to think otherwise. Yes, they have not confirmed that they're actually even working on Bully 2, but at this point there are so many leaks and rumors that it's kind of obvious. Let's say it would be more of a shock to see them not do Bully 2 next than it would be to see them actually do Bully 2 next. So that's kind of where that sits. And then the last thing we're talking about in gaming news is, speaking of EVO, we're talking Tekken 7. And at the end of their tournament at EVO, they announced Season 3. And they gave us 2, maybe 3 of the competitors that will be releasing with Season 3. First, though, they did say that they are going to be updating every single character in the game for Season 3. No real details as to exactly what they're updating. I feel like they did say something about movesets, so we will potentially be seeing new moves for everyone in the game, but also the 2 new characters. We got a returning fighter in Zafina, and then we got a new fighter in Leroy Smith, which I feel like all the SJW types are really going to jump on that name because it's a little too on the nose. But then the intro, or the bit that played right before that was a weird Metal Gear thing that was some sort of like call out to. Oh, it was very crazy. And then EVO recently come out and said, no, don't mistake that. Capcom didn't do that. We did that. This is us making a joke. Sorry for the confusion. So apparently no Solid Snake in Tekken 7, much like we got Negan in Tekken 7. It would have been really awesome to see him in a what, quote-unquote more proper fighting game, because obviously he's in Smash Brothers. He's in 2 Smash Brothers games now, but that's not a traditional traditional fighting game, that's semantics and whatever. So it would have been interesting to see him in a more established fighting franchise, because again, Tekken 7 is quite a bit older than Smash Brothers, but Tekken rather is quite a bit older than Smash Brothers. So that would have been really awesome, but it's not happening apparently. And that brings us to the last section for the episode, which is comic books. And there is actual comic book news for this episode, albeit just one piece. We are talking about Neil Gaiman. Of course we're talking about Neil Gaiman, because comic books wouldn't be the same without him. Well, Neil Gaiman just put out a Snow White book. That's right, Snow White and the freaking seven, well, maybe not with the seven dwarves. I don't know, because it's not officially out until next week, I'm pretty sure. But the previews for it are super interesting, with some really fantastic artwork by Colleen Doran, or Doran, maybe? I'm going with Doran. Just fantastic. I don't know why you're still watching this. Go get that comic book. And that brings us to the end of the episode, guys. What did I miss? What should we talk about in the next episode? Let me know in the comments down below. If though you want to go deeper in the conversation, there's a website, generallynerdy.net. There's a Patreon, patreon.com/generallynerdy. Both places that you can go deep in your conversation right here with me. And on the Patreon, you can support a little more directly. There is plenty of other stuff up on the Patreon, so definitely owe it to yourself. Go check that out. Just $1 a month, all that jazz, just like everybody else does. If you are new to the channel, please click that subscribe button so that you get the notifications. You need to ring that bell, and it will let you know when I post these videos. Again, I do these twice a week, and then I do everything else as it's done being edited. So up to 5 videos I've been known to post. I've done 6 videos for a few weeks straight. Not even gonna lie, that was a lot of editing, but that is a possibility, so definitely click the subscribe and ring the bell, and also click the thumbs up if you like what I'm trying to do here. But if you're falling behind on your nerd news and you want to catch up, you can click or tap that box right there to the left of my face to do that. But before you do click the box, and before you go anywhere else, guys, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.